the distinguished members of the panel, and our other colleagues in attendance. Good morning to everybody. My topic is here to present transition to liquefied petroleum gas as an alternative fuel in Nigeria, prospects and challenges. Well, to start with is, I just want to give a brief historical background, just briefly. In other words, gas looks to be a bridge before we move to renewable. We can say renewable is in a good perspective, but we have abundant gas supply, and we believe that if we should exhaust or utilize the gas we have now, that would be better for us before we move into renewable. Secondly, again, we discovered that in renewable, the technology driving it for now is quite prohibitive, and hence the need for us to properly exhaust the gas before we move to renewable. Thank you. The introduction of this paper is saying that there is consequences of global warming around the world and climate change. So there is need for us to try to see how we can mitigate the impact of the impact of fossil emission. So the point here is that we are not saying that gas, which is also part of fossil, does not impact emission, but there is a way we can reduce the minimal effects, since gas is also seen as it has its own alternative on the environment, but we try to reduce the impact of it, and hence we should encourage the use of LPG. Many countries have also been able to adopt the LPG, and we have seen examples like from US, where we see that LPG or natural gas is 1/4 source of energy in US, and according to EIA 2022, it's also reported that United Kingdom is the second largest producer of LPG or natural gas after Norway. Then, while Goosen 2021 pointed out that Africa has a lot of gas reserve, almost close to 800 TCF, and Nigeria also has the largest of the African reserve of gas energy. So we expect Nigeria to adopt the LPG. Then the gas policy of 2017 has also reflected the efforts of government in addressing or maybe shifting our attention to LPG. But some factors are still waiting to be put in place. Even though so many conferences have taken place across the world, where we have tried to see how emission of carbon dioxide can be seriously mitigated, hence the need for Nigeria to adopt LPG. From literature review, we have seen the composition of LPG in terms of what and what comprises the LPG. And it is based on this composition that, to some extent, it is seen it will have a minimal impact on the environment. LPG is a component also of 60% extraction and 40% from refining. So the two will give you the complete pressurized or maybe the contents of LPG itself. Then in the conceptual framework, I've tried to adopt demand and supply dynamics. This is the fact that this is the basis of economics, and energy economics too cannot be left behind, particularly when we talk about availability and accessibility. So LPG is becoming a preferred choice among households globally due to relative affordability and environmental friendliness. Demand and supply has also tends to shape the supply chain, hence satisfactory demand is a function of effective supply. Therefore, this unending dynamics provides a conceptual framework to understanding the prospects associated with LPG as an alternative fuel, as well as challenges inherent in the transition. Then, in terms of the methodology, I've tried to adopt according to CINDA, that systematic literature review can also be used in some instances where you look at works that has been done in terms of data and investigations, then as well as the findings. Then from there you can make a cross-analysis, which Davis also called a meta-analysis. And that can also be used in this research or paper. So here we have tried to see that has been able to give us the benefits of transition from LPG to, from dirty fuel to LPG. Then also analysis of some of the empirical literatures has shown that, for instance, Henry, in his data analysis, has proved that dirty fuels has very high cost and has led to indiscriminate felling of trees. Consequently, I argue that increased consumption of LPG is a viable option to check the negative effect of felling trees. Conversely, Majama made a critique, and that most felling trees may be for commercial reasons and not really for the LPG per se, because it has proved that after 100, Nigerian Forest Reserve also has shown that 60 million coverage of trees felled has reduced from, 60 million to 9.6 million hectares. And then to round up, the discussion, under the discussion, looking at the empirical review, is I've tried to look at transition from dirty fuel to cooler has proved its own advantage in terms of prospects and challenges, even though there's global warming and carbon emission all over the place, as well as greenhouse gases. Some of the prospects are LPG can impact positively on forest reserves. It is capable of reducing indiscriminate felling of trees. It has high level of patronage. For instance, 2022 aggregate demand rose from 1.04 metric tons to compared to 400,000 metric tons. The challenges are inequality to access in favor of urban area and high income earners. Most of the people that have favor of LPG are people in the urban areas and people that have high income. It has also excluded rural areas in terms of poor red networks and inadequate storage facilities, limited distribution facilities, and so on. In conclusion, the paper has demonstrated adopting the needs for LPG better than other dirty fuels because it will bring about healthy environment, and that of Nigerians. Nigerians too can be healthy if they adopt a cleaner energy than dirty energy. Then also we have seen that some of the costs incurred by government in terms of funds can be channeled into beneficial projects instead of using it to check environment. Then finally, we have made the following recommendation that one, we need to increase accessibility of LPG to rural areas, provision of storage facilities so as to create availability, greater awareness in terms of sensitization to the general public so that Nigerians can accept the use of LPG. And then finally, there could be need for price control to enhance affordability. Thank you.
Please, let's give him a very